Hi Jan, thank you for coming to talk to me today. The conference today has been about, we've been considering why some schools are successfully able to teach every child to read, but the majority still don't. Why? You're clearly doing something at your school that's helping every child to read and to succeed.
It's a great question, and it's interesting to hear all the debate at the conference today. I think it's important to start off by putting St George's into its context.
That would be
because St George's is a one-form entry primary school, so it has one teacher in each year group. It's on the Patmore estate in Battersea. It's the school with the highest deprivation indicator for the south of London. It's within the 2% most deprived nationally. All the attendant factors, of course, 33 languages, all of the challenges that children bring from homes that are very low on resources. We do remarkable things in that context, there's no question. And what we say to other schools is, if we can do it, you can definitely do it. And it's very humbling to us that now we've grown into a national support school. Leaders and teachers come from all over the UK to see our practice there on the Patmore estate. Of course, there are additional challenges. When you're a one-form school, you have very limited resources. That teacher in that year group doesn't have a year group partner to team up with. There aren't lots of leaders in the school. You have limited capacity, but in spite of that, we still have such phenomenal outcomes in terms of pupil attainment. And of everything, I mean, the word passion really doesn't come close to how I, as the head of the school, feel about early literacy, and of course the motivation of my team. But I have to say, although my reputation goes before me for being such a taskmaster as a head, because it really, really matters to me that the children are successful and that they reach their potential. I'm humbled truly by working with a team who are so committed to living out the mission of our school, which is we change lives every working day. So to get into some of the nitty-gritty of what we do, as a head, first of all, I stay very close to the work of teaching and learning, and that is not typical of school leaders in the UK at the moment. As a national leader of education, one of the things I feel saddest about is that I'm in failing schools all the time, and I'm sitting with heads who've done every leadership programme going and yet have no understanding of teaching and learning. For me, I also create a leadership team who stay in the classroom.
Right.
So we may have people coming from all over the UK to see how we lead this curriculum that brings out the outcomes, but they have to go into the classroom to see it happening, because our assistant heads in reception, year 2 and year 6, are classroom practitioners. And the way we work at St George's is to say, watch me, now you have a go. So all of the teachers can see expert practice on a daily basis. And when people come to be trained in our school, they're not trained in rooms away from the classroom, they're trained in the classroom. And the big message to teachers is, you will strengthen your practice within a classroom setting, not outside it. And to the leaders, you will learn how to be a leader of a school with the highest levels of attainment if you lead through your classrooms and not through your ivory towers. Now let me bring you then to, you know, kind of take it in a little bit closer on the Zoom lens. Not everybody's cup of tea, bit controversial, but I personally, and I'm not an academic, I'm not a researcher, I am somebody who leads teaching and learning by seeing what's happening to children in classrooms every day. Every decision I make is based on something that is or isn't working in the learning. So what is the nonsense of we play all day in the early years. I'm not saying we shouldn't have hours of free play in early years. I'm just saying there's plenty of time in a school day to have structured teaching. And at St George's we do structured teaching from 3. Another critical part is that children are taught the right way from the start. They're not allowed to develop poor habits themselves by trying to work out how one learns. They're taught how to learn from the start. They're taught their phonics. They're taught how to write properly from the word go. No mark making. They're told to hold the tripod grip, and they're taught how to orient letters right from the start. And we create non-negotiables right from nursery. So my nursery teacher would know that if she's coming into pupil progress meetings on any less an agenda of rigour than my year 6 teachers, who must feel like they've got somebody's hands around the throat, the pressure on them to bring through the data. Well, I expect the same from my nursery teacher. And indeed, of course, then what happens is she exceeds my expectations all the time. Now, I could bring in, some other interesting areas here. For example, one morning I woke up, it's all my light bulb moments always happen in the morning. So I woke up one morning and I was tussling with this idea of children and talk, because the typical scenario at St George's, children come in at 3 and they have such a paucity of language.
Yes.
Yeah, they can be, 18 months delayed. Just a few word utterances, some of them, and that's not about being speakers of other languages. That is about poor language models in the home. And I had this idea of the confident voice. Well, St George's now, we are a confident voice school. And if you come into my nursery class and it's registration time, you will hear every single 3-year-old speaking in full sentences that ring out like a tinkling bell. And we have a gesture, and the children know that this is, give me the full sentence. Or if they start with 1 or 2 words, this gesture means, give me the rest of that sentence. So the children learn to speak in a full sentence. That translates immediately into their learning and, of course, into their writing. The other critical thing, because we teach children to write from the word go, everything's assimilating at the same time. Children never write and come to show you their writing and you say, what does it say? And actually they haven't got a clue. From the word go at St George's, if a child writes a word, they will know to put the lines, they'll know to orient the letters, and they'll show you and they'll say, it says, and they will read exactly what it says.
Jan, how do the children respond to that?
Well,
because we're encouraged. We're encouraged that they need to have lots of play and learning through discovery. How do they respond when you teach them in this structured way?
First of all, the children at St George's have lots of play and lots of discovery. I mean, there's hours, long hours in a school day. But they, of course, just love structured teaching. I mean, I was in the nursery the other day, and ours is a real centre of excellence foundation stage. And our nursery children, when they're in a place of complete delight, because they can all use ringing full sentences. They can all use all of their pure sounds. They can all write them down. And there's a real sense of being very successful as learners. You see, a lot of this came through when I was tussling with what's going on with boy writers. We went through a phase a few years ago. What's the problem with boys not being able to write? Well, rocket science, boys can't write because they haven't been taught to write. And what you get is boys doing the old mark making, fist grip, can't read it back. Motivation disappears because what's in their head, they can't get down, pick up a book, they can't read it. And then all the behavioural issues start to kick in. We now have boy readers, boy writers. I mean, just really sensational boy readers and writers from 3. Very, very motivated boy writers. So, for example, this week I was in year 2. We were on Horrid Henry. I'd made up a Horrid Henry story. The children, of course, just hanging on my every word. The teacher set the children to writing. Honestly, this is true. 50 minutes, year 2, boys, least able boys, they were, you couldn't pull them up off the page because they had to get down the horrid Henry story that was in their head. Now, I want to just move on into a little bit about reception, because reception is such a key year group for us, where we, you know, increase that level of structured teaching, and we are really starting to put the flesh on the bones of the phonics and the reading. We would expect, and we would achieve, there is no question at St George's, we would achieve every pupil, even if they have joined us in reception, because we would normally have about a third of our children joining us from no prior setting into reception. And we integrate them in the autumn terms, integration time for them, so that we get them up to the level of the rest of the class. Everybody's coming along together, and by the end of reception we would absolutely expect 100% at a good level of development, and at least 20% exceeding that. So for a school in our context, we are already way over national expectations. By the end of reception, we've already narrowed the gap. By the end of reception, our children enter year one with everything that they need to be successful learners. They've got dignity as learners, they can self-manage as learners, they're totally motivated as learners, they've got all the skills that they need to learn. So the brilliant payoff, one would expect in a school with our kind of deprivation figures to have children with behavioural needs, but we don't. We are a calm school, and in every classroom there is an atmosphere of calm, focused learning. Whoever comes to our school, that's the bit that is sort of awe and wonder to them, how the children come in to cross the threshold of the school into their learning seamlessly and with such high levels of confidence and capability. And we keep growing that through the school. Now, something that I've done, and again, I could end up, you know, with the old handcuffs on, let's wait and see. I woke up again one morning, light bulb on, and I thought to myself, what is special educational needs? Because we had Moses, didn't we, with his tablets of stone this morning, and I was looking for the words. Some children in every school will have special educational needs. When I joined St George's, we had 76% special educational needs. And this is true. Today we have 2 pupils with a diagnosed learning disability, and that is our special needs caseload.
Significant improvement.
Well, let's just say we've eliminated special needs. Teresa, who you met this morning, was our Senko. And is there a more miserable job really than those mountains of paperwork and those endless multi-agency professionals coming in and the endless meetings? And at year 6 you've grown more special needs than you had in year 1. It's a self-perpetuating reality, isn't it? And I thought, no, do you know what? We're not having a Senko because we're not having special needs. These children are going to learn. And Teresa now is our specialist teacher. Her job is to make sure that everybody gets to national, and, well, blow us over. She teaches from 8:15 every morning till nearly 4 o'clock, all day, every day. Her room, we call it the engine room, and she has reclaimed her role as specialist teacher, and she sorts special needs out by teaching.
One of the things, just to finish off, Jan, one of the things that Teresa said was that the staff had all been out on a 4-day training, which is quite a level of commitment for a head teacher, their staff being out of the classroom. And I'm just wondering what you would say to other head teachers about the importance of professional development and teachers learning about how our writing system works.
Obviously training is critical. You don't have to get your teachers out of the classroom. You can do it through inset days. We trained the whole team through inset days. We were a little bit creative about it. But certainly any new member of staff coming in, they would also have to do the training. You couldn't teach at St George's and not be Sounds Right trained. I mean, we live and breathe by our Sounds Right training at St George's, and every inset day, without fail, we revisit our Sounds Right practice. So Teresa will always have the whole team, me, the office team, the premises officer, the teachers, the teaching assistants, we'll all go back through the key elements of Sounds Right. We can ask any questions from our assessment of our work in the classroom. She'll also take us through our handwriting scheme. She'll take us through our grammar, key points of grammar, and so on. So we do a lot of elocution at St George's. That again is unusual, but we realise that if children are going to be able to write, they're going to need outstanding models of spoken language. So we love nothing more than an elocution lesson at St George's.
We're going to have to bring this to an end. I'd love to continue talking to you for another hour, without a doubt, but we're going to bring this to an end now. Thank you so much for giving us that opportunity to have a conversation with you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.